In a pair of taped radio interviews that aired this morning, the president said it's time to move forward with his campaign. On the Earl Ingram Show, which is out of Wisconsin, he stressed how important black voters are to this election.
The vote of the black community matters intensely. Look, it make up a significant portion of the American population. Who's going to represent you except folks like me?
And when talking about last week's debate, the president admitted to the radio program The Source he had a bad night.
Is there any reason for the American people to be concerned?
No, I had a bad debate.
Yeah.
I had a bad debate. But 90 minutes on stage does not erase what I've done for 3.5 years. Proud of the record, and we just got to keep moving.
Well, joining me now is the host of The Source, that radio program, Andrea Lawful Sanders. It's great to have you with us this morning. Look, you got right in there with the president in this interview, which aired this morning. What are you hearing from your listeners in reaction to what the president told you?
I am so glad that, first of all, thank you for having me on this morning on your show. It is an honor. I am so happy that that was the first question that you asked, because right after the interview aired at 6 o'clock this morning, I began getting comments like, you just saved the democracy. You were patient, you were kind, you allowed him to speak, and we understood what he was saying amidst the noise that we had been hearing about the fact that he was too old and it was time for him to retire and give it to someone else. And so I was proud of that. I was proud that WURD was chosen to be a part of this conversation so that people could get a clearer sense of what he was discussing and why he wanted to stay as the presumptive nominee for Democratic President of the United States of America.
You told my colleague Laura Coates that you were a little concerned in the wake of the debate.
I was.
I think, were your listeners as concerned?
It was interesting because the listeners, as we were concerned, myself, Joanne Bell, James Peterson, and Niall Blass, who was 24 years old, we found someone who was much younger who was willing to have the conversation with us. Mm-hmm. As we were beginning to feel concerned, the listeners said, and they were typing away as we were talking, they said, I don't care if he's walking with a cane. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I am watching my freedom slipping away. And at that point, the Supreme Court had not yet ruled on all the things that they'd come down with a day later. And that even solidified it even more for them that they would rather vote for Joe Biden than Donald Trump. So I was so heartened by that. I have been in many living rooms having this conversation over the last few months. And I said to the people who were, waffling, oh my God, this doesn't look good, et cetera, et cetera. I said, you've been listening to two men. Both of them are older than we would have liked them to be. But of the two men that you are listening to, who was the one that would make more sense for the United States of America? Who is the one that would work with the people? Who is the one that has the data, the proven policies that would give us what we needed as a country to move forward? We're already so fractured from what happened on January 6, 2021. This has only frightened the people more. And so many of my friends have gotten passports and visas and gone on to other places to live as a direct result, black and white, right? And so we have to create a space of calm in our country, bring it back to center, and find ways for us to work together again.
When you got this call, was it the White House or the campaign that reached out and said, we'd love for you to speak with the president?
Both. The White House and the campaign. And they called and said, we've been listening to you. We want to give you this opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, when you do your work and do it well and keep your head down, the people will notice. You don't have to draw attention to yourself. And so on WURD Radio, which is a small station, only one of four that is four owned black media stations in the country, I said to Sarah Lomax, who is the owner, and it's independently operated. I said to her in 2019, Sarah, the ultimate goal is to get people to work together, to get our folks to understand the importance of what it is to be black in our community, and to take on the stories that matter most to us in a time where we can only get 30 seconds on another radio station or 15 seconds on air at a television station. We're able to delve a little deeper. So it is an honor. When I tell you it is an honor for us to have been chosen, it truly was.
And then that gives you the opportunity, too, to express what your listeners are saying and feeling and the questions that they have. Look, the interview with you, I also spoke with Earl Ingram out of Wisconsin. He did an interview yesterday as well. These are two important places for President Biden, of course, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. We know he's going to be making trips there. There is so much talk about whether the president not only can win this election, but whether he can serve, whether he is fit to serve another 4 years. Those questions are out there. Based on your conversation with him, do you believe he is?
I believe he is fit, but I also want to remind people that he's the face, the figurehead as president of the United States. He has a whole staff around him that has created so many changes over the last 3 years. Now, I'm not telling people who to vote for one way or the other. I just want them to take a look and see what's happening on either side of the aisle and decide which would be best for their life, their well-being, and their freedoms. So let people, as I'm talking to them, are saying things to me like, Andrea, I don't care if they have to roll him in a wheelchair. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I don't care. We are seeing our freedoms taken away as Black people. He has helped create Black wealth, as he told me. 60% of Black wealth grew 60% since the COVID. He says we have to do more. He's talked about, student debt relief. He's talked about pouring money into creating spaces for Black-owned businesses so that we can grow our wealth. He's talked about, putting $16 billion into HBCUs. The man is one of the few people, and that includes Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, who has just really honed in and focused in on people of color in this country. And then he went further to create spaces where we have the most Black justices, the Black judges, federal judges. He's the only president that's created that many Black judges in the country. So we have to look at his record, right? Not just look at his frailty. And as someone who's from the island of Jamaica, I tell people all the time, we have to stop discarding our elderly. Right? They've not lost their minds. They've not done, they've worked so hard to get to where they are. And yes, we slow down as we get older and our bodies move a little slower. But we tend to be moved by what we see people doing, how charismatic they are, and not by the truths or untruths we hear.
Andrea Lawful Sanders, really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. Thank you, and happy 4th.
You are so welcome.